Welcome back to a special championship edition Tucked In Wizards, guys. As always, I'm Aidan, and I'm here with my co-host Ben.
Welcome back, guys. We have two of the smallest market teams in the finals this year, and it's going to be exciting. It was I would say, relatively fun conference finals, I guess, depending on how you look at it.
Yep.
Like, the Pacers and Knicks was pretty fun. It was pretty good. We kind of knew who was going to win the series, I would say, after two games for both of them, which was kind of sucked. But they were good games anyway. And we'll talk about the conference finals. We'll talk about the finals matchup. We'll talk about who we think is going to win. And that's what we'll be doing today. You have any starting remarks? Any interesting facts?
I just want to start out point out I'm at a very weird camera angle today. It's a little scuffed
I can't even see
over
it,
here.
So
Yeah, it's just super low and like super high up. I'll try and get this fixed for the next one, but we had to re-record this one, so it's a little touch and go right now. But I think a fun fact that I have, I think, is when I saw this interesting statistic. A lot of people are like, whoa, this Pacers run is kind of coming out of nowhere, which it is. They've been doing a really good job. I definitely didn't expect this. But if you look at the last, I think it was 60 games of the season, which is, a large sample size, the Pacers were the best team in the East. They just kind of came out to a slow start. So, when you look at the statistics, when you look at the data, this is not super surprising, but it really just goes to show just how good of a unit this Pacers team is built, how well they work together, and just like, it's a really, really a testament to the front office work in building this team. Yeah,
it's a very team by committee, which is interesting because that's kind of how we saw the Cavs throughout the whole year, but the Pacers do it to even more of an extent. I saw something that in this playoffs, the Pacers have a better transition offense, which I guess would have been obvious, but also technically a better defense than the Thunder, which is kind of crazy. It is a smaller sample size than the regular season. I would still say the Thunder's defense is better, but the Pacers' ratings has been better throughout the playoffs. Also, the Thunder, they had to play a little harder teams in the Nuggets and the Wolves, but the Knicks are no slouch. The Cavs obviously are no slouch, so very, very impressive run by the Pacers. I also saw something that so there have been two teams ever in NBA history to win an NBA championship without an MVP on the roster. One of those being the 68 Celtics, which seems crazy because Bill Russell was on the team. But do you know what the other one was? The Pacers would be the third if they won.
Okay, so is this without an MVP?
MVP vote.
Okay, yeah.
No, and I'll give you a hint. It's kind of the theme of our whole channel.
Is it the 1978-1979 Washington Wizards?
It is.
Let's go!
So, interesting stuff there that they were also able to win by committee. But a theme of the parity era, too, because that was the parity era in the NBA, like back in the 70s and early 80s. And this is kind of the parity era of the NBA now. So,
yeah, for sure. What is this, 8 different champions in 8 different years?
Yeah, and it's definitely a two-star type theme, two-star good role player theme.
Yes. Yeah, and that's the thing that I've found very interesting. It's not even as much about the stars nowadays as it is about, the 6th to 10th man on your roster. If you can have a guy there that has the potential to go off for, hit 4 really key threes, go off for 20 plus a night, grab a bunch of really key offensive rebounds, that can be the decider in these series now.
Yeah, and we saw that. We could go and talk about the conference finals. We saw that in Game 1 with the Pacers, and Aaron Nesmith just went on one of the biggest heaters I've seen from a guy not named Steph Curry, pretty much. Where he hit, 6 straight threes or 7 straight threes?
I think
something
it was
like that. To
6 in
lead the
a minute and a half, 6 in 2 minutes. It's super insane.
He was some Tracy McGrady stuff, and then Tyrese Halliburton getting the craziest bounce since Kawhi Leonard to tie that series, doing the choking celebration. That was definitely one of the more fun games of the season, of the playoffs.
I agree.
And the Pacers kind of rode that momentum through the rest of the series.
Yeah. And just looking more at the conference finals as an overview, I saw an interesting stat going into the finals today that they were breaking down the touches per game for each, the Thunder and the Pacers, and we were talking about team by committee, and these are the two teams that are really, really, really playing team by committee. To the point where Halliburton had more touches than Shea. It was 6 or 7, but it was he had 32 and Shea had 25 a game. And then you go down and their 11th man has 1 touch on the Pacers and 3 on the Thunder. So these are two teams that are getting their supporting cast involved. They are headed by two really good playmaking point guards. I think it's going to be a fun matchup too, just like individually, because Halliburton plays much more of a, I don't want to say traditional, but playmaking assist forward point guard, where Shea is way more of like a, I hesitate to say James Harden, but like a scoring point guard that
he's an ISO guard, yeah.
Yeah, ISO guard. That's a good way to describe it. So I think it'll be interesting to see these two different styles kind of clash and see which team is really able to impose their will on this series.
Yeah, and we'll talk about the matchup first as well, but I want to go to the other side of the bracket with the Western Conference Finals with the Wolves and the Thunder, because the Thunder dominated those first two games. Yeah. It really seemed like the Wolves were completely outclassed. Then you had that complete outlier game 3, right? Where the Wolves shot like 70% from 3. We were like, they're not going to do this again. But in that game 4, it seemed like the Wolves kind of figured out a little bit how to guard Shea and how to guard this Thunder team. And they're basically like, it was like this weird coverage where Rudy Gobert would kind of step up and take away Shea's. He's not necessarily taking away the mid-range, but almost taking away both the mid-range and the drive. It was really weird. It was just like something that pretty much only Gobert can do on defense. And he was basically forcing the Thunder to hit their threes. And they didn't really in Game 3, obviously, and they didn't really in Game 4. But the difference was in Game 4, the Stars really stepped up for the Thunder, where the Stars didn't really step up for the Wolves. And that kind of catapulted them into the 5-game series, where it kind of could have gone either way if the Wolves were able to close out that Game 4.
If I'm
I don't know if that makes
treating
sense.
That one like a loss. They figured something out with Gobert on Shea.
No, they kind of did figure something out though in that game. It's just it was too late. They figured it out too late.
I think the Indiana they should be taking a look at that game for sure, and I think they need to take a look at the Denver series because I think what the Wolves kind of figured out in Game 4 was also kind of what Denver had figured out during that series, where they kind of naturally have to play like that. Like, they like playing a lot of drop in zone, so like Jokic doesn't really need to go out to the perimeter that much and can kind of just like sit back and poke at the ball and like stay in the paint. And I think that does work against this Thunder team. They're not as consistent from 3 as some other teams I've seen. Like even the Pacers, I think, are a little more consistent from 3 with their role players. And like J-Dub doesn't take a lot of threes, that kind of thing. And, Pascal Siakam's, I saw he shot like 50% on threes in this conference finals. It was only like an attempted game or something, but that's still like you have to guard
really
him
yeah.
If he's doing that. And it's the same thing with Chet. So I think there's a lot of similarities. I think just touching back on that Wolves Thunder series, I think that it was unfortunate that the Wolves didn't get... They never got a game where their stars and their role players were going off in the same time, I felt like. Like that Game 4 you were talking about, their role players really stepped up, but then you had Ant, Randall, and Gobert that like really couldn't get anything going.
Well, they got one. They got the Game 3, but...
True, yeah. The outlier game. But besides that, like, Julius Randle never got going. Rudy Gobert never really attacked Chet. He never... it was hard for him.
Rudy Gobert was unplayable in parts of the series because his offense was so bad. And that's saying something because his defense in the series I actually thought was really good.
I thought so too, but he looked like Jazz Rudy Gobert out there, where it's like, okay, he's kind of the reason why we can't get anything going on offense. Ben Simmons-esque.
That's hate.
But I thought it was pretty good conference finals, even though it was just a 5-game series. I think I would have liked a little more, for sure. I think Game 6 or 7 could have been fun. But I enjoyed it. I think this is going to be a really, really good matchup. I think the rating stock is super overblown. I think we talked about this a little before, but we shouldn't really be caring about this kind of thing. Like, if you're a real basketball fan, like, who gives a fuck what the league
Exactly.
is
At the end of the day, it's good basketball. And these are two of the most exciting teams in the league. Just
currently.
Looking at them.
Plus, the Pacers, that's kind of a good blueprint for the Wizards. We just were talking about MVP voting. Yeah. They don't have a single top 5 pick on the roster. Not all these players. A lot of these players are kind of rejects. Thomas Bryant, Nesmith, Obi Toppin. A lot of these guys were never really wanted.
Andrew Nembhard was a second-round pick. So.
Yeah. This is kind of a good blueprint for something the Wizards could do, and it makes losing the number one pick sting a little less. Where it's like, okay, I trust the front office, I trust the culture they're trying to instill, and like they're doing the right moves. So it's good to see a team rewarded for going about it the right way and going through a proper process. And of course, because I think Oklahoma is kind of the same way. No, the Pacers never tanked. And Oklahoma is kind of the same, but you had those disgusting lineups where, like, Indiana, they were playing Paul George and then immediately turned and, like, Sabonis, got Halliburton, Sabonis, Oladipo, even Miles Turner. They know he's a good player. They've been hesitant to let him go. So it's just very rewarding. And, I always like the storyline, being a Wizards fan, of the small market. Even though we're not a small market, everyone says it, we're top 10.
Treat like a small market.
Versus, big, huge market taking down New York. It's always fun.
Yeah. No, it was definitely fun to watch this Pacers run. And when they were dominating the Cavs in the second round, I was kind of thinking,
that was really fun.
This feels like it's going to be the finals team in the East.
Yeah.
Even though the Knicks had that, they were just so good. But I don't know. Going to the matchup, we'll see. I know a lot of people are picking the Thunder, rightfully so. They have been the best team in the NBA pretty much the entire season, and it's like one of those things where it's don't overthink it. They've been the best team all season. They're going to continue to be the best team. But we'll talk about some of like the key points. I think for the Thunder, it's going to be very simply preventing the transition offense. That's the Pacers' bread and butter, right? So if you can prevent that, don't turn the ball over as much. Get back, especially off made baskets. We saw multiple times in the Knicks series where the Pacers would just basically score in transition off a made basket, which is almost unheard of. And that's something the Thunder want to do. I think the Thunder will do good at that. They're a very, very, very good defensive team. They'll pick people up full court. I mean, Caruso, Wallace, all those guys are going to be hounding Halliburton the whole game. So it'll be a lot easier for them, I think, than the Knicks. A little bit more stamina on that Thunder team as well. Other things, continue the defensive pressure, get forced turnovers of their own. That's their bread and butter. That's how they get in transition. What was it, like 20-plus turnovers a game against the Wolves? Was pretty much how they won. So those are the two big things, which sounds pretty simple. I feel like Drew Gooden, but that's that's what they got to do. It's force turnovers and not turn the ball over. That would be how they win.
See, the transition thing is the interesting part, because that's been what these analysts have been saying all playoffs. That's the key to beating Oklahoma, is transition. So if they can get that transition offense humming, then I think it's going to be a little tougher for Oklahoma. I also think one of the things for Oklahoma is that they have really, really good point of attack defenders, and one thing that's been really, really, really serving them well all playoffs has been just like, we're going to focus on a guy, completely isolate him, get him completely out of the game, and make it so he can't score at all, can't even really pass. But that's kind of something that Halliburton's kind of been leaning into the past couple of years. He's more of a sacrificial point guard, I feel like, where he will sacrifice his own game to get his teammates really moving. So I think that could be something, that could be an aspect that might be overlooked that could help against the Thunder. Of course, this is a really amazing team that, they've won almost 80 games so far, including the postseason, I believe. So it's going to be tough. But
that's a great point.
Yeah, and I think there's some ways for the Pacers. I think it's tough. I think it's harder for the Pacers than the Thunder, but I think there is a feasible path where, we were talking about this individually. Past couple years, I didn't really see a chance for the Mavericks. I really didn't see a chance for Miami. So I hope that I'm correct. I could be wrong. It could be a 5-6 game series. But I hope we at least get a nice finals finally after a few years of kind of duds.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point, because when the Thunder played the Nuggets, Wolves, and even Grizzlies, there was always like, okay, that guy that we're going to attack defensively when they're on offense. So that was Jamal Murray for the Nuggets, it was Anthony Edwards, and it was John Morant, right? Tyrese Halliburton is not the guy that he's going to be like, all right, everyone out of the way, I'm going to get like my basket like these other guys are.
Yeah.
He's more like, oh, you're going to put Case and Wallace on me? That's fine. Neesmith is going to, hit a three. Or Nembhard, okay, let's ISO Nembhard then. Or let's post up Pascal Siakam then. There's just so many threats on this Pacers team that it's going to be hard to really isolate the guy that they need to take out of the game. Yeah. And speaking of like wings and power forwards, Pascal Siakam is going to be a big mismatch for the Thunder. We saw it with Aaron Gordon in the Nuggets series. Julius Randle, he could not get it going, unfortunately, even though I think he was like a big key for the Wolves in that series. He just couldn't get it going, and they shut him down pretty well. But I think you got Siakam is just better than Randle, first of all, but also more experienced. And we saw it against the Knicks where he really took advantage of those mismatches as well, because they kept running Cat and Mitchell Robinson together. And Pascal was like, okay, well, I'm just going to take one of them one-on-one.
Yeah. I think Pascal's been a little underrated kind of his whole career, even though he's a champion and was a key part of that championship team. And he's one of those bigs that really understands his limits and exploits the enemy team's just kind of I don't want to say underestimation, but he's really good at doing what he does, and it's really hard to stop him. Besides, if your name's not Bilal Coulibaly, it's basically impossible.
Of course.
But if it's Bilal, then he's easy to stop.
This gives me. It's funny because you talked about like the Pacers, and it was like, okay, analysts say, how do you beat this Thunder team? It's transition. And it's kind of similar to what people were saying about the Pacers when they played the Celtics last year. Is like, how do you beat the Celtics team? It's transition. The Pacers are probably one of the worst matchups for the Celtics, or at least that year. Obviously, they swept them. But I think this will be different. The Thunder are obviously less experienced, and the Pacers are more experienced. So we should see that favorably shift towards the Pacers. And I think the 3-point game and the transition game should favor Indiana. If it doesn't, they're definitely losing the series.
Yes.
But if it does, we'll see something more even.
Yeah, there's one interesting part about that Boston series is like, ask any Boston fan, they respect the hell out of Indiana, even though it's a sweep, because they made that very close. And I think the only reason the Celtics won that was because they could match their 3-point shooting.
They were much more clutch.
Yes, and much more clutch for sure. And I don't see that on the Oklahoma team, where like this Boston team is designed to take as many threes as possible, and Oklahoma is designed really to lock down that half-court offense, make it really hard to score, and then just get easy buckets on the other side with like your amazing players. So again, this is a hard one because it's like, if you look at it just analytically, it should kind of favor the Pacers, just the way they play and like fast transition. But at the same time, if you look at it, that could also turn the Thunder's way as well if they're able to counter that. I think it's going to be...
we could talk...
Sorry, no, go ahead.
No, I was going to say we could talk about how the Thunder are going to win this series, if that's what you're going to get into.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's their path. See, the thing is, I think I always tend to favor the team who has, in my eyes, an easier path to winning, and I do think that is the Thunder. They just kind of need to shut down transition offense and like really, really, really shut down these passing lanes, because that's one thing they excel at. That's one thing Indiana really, really loves to do, is pass the ball around as much as they can. I think they're number one in the league this year for pace plus passing the ball around or something like that. So there's definitely like, I think in my eyes an easier path for them than Indiana, where like you just got to shut that down, and then Indiana's probably not stopping you on the other side. But I don't know, they did have good defense in these Eastern Conference Finals and their whole run. So it's one of those series where it's like kind of two unknown teams who have never really played against each other, so there's not really a lot of data. So it's like, maybe Indiana comes out and runs them out the gym and they look really, really nice, or Oklahoma manages to slow it down and they kind of struggle to get something going.
Yeah, and we talked about the Thunder a little bit earlier. I think just having the best player in the series is going to give them an advantage. Shea is obviously, he's pretty much scored 30 in almost every game this playoffs except for that one game 3. So you could probably expect him to do that again going into this Pacers series, especially since he's not going to be seeing a defender quite to Jaden McDaniels caliber. We'll see Aaron Nesmith and we'll see Andrew Nembhard probably take turns going at him, but he's not close to McDaniels, so it's going to be hard to stop Shea. And it's basically about these other two stars. If Jalen Williams gets going like he did in the in the Wolves series, where he is knocking down his shots, especially his open shots, his open threes, it's going to be real tough for the Pacers to match that, because you have these two guys basically you could argue are the top. I mean, you could argue top 2 guys in the series, but definitely 2 of the top 3. And yeah, we've seen J-Dub have some offensive issues, but if he gets going, if him and Shea are going, you really don't need a lot from the role players on the Thunder to win these games, where the Pacers are going to need a good amount from their role players.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I agree, like 100% top 3. I think I would have both Halliburton and Siakam over J-Dub. No offense to J-Dub, it's just, this is pretty early on in his career. He's 23? And he's in the finals for the first time. So this is and Pascal Siakam's been here before. Halliburton hasn't been in this exact position before, but he's no stranger to these big moments. And it's the last time they played a team, when they played the Nuggets, J-Dub did look a little shook. And it was like, maybe he isn't quite ready for this moment. And he did look much better against Minnesota, but also at the same time, Minnesota wasn't really looking to shut him down a whole ton. It seemed like, okay, we'll shut down Shea. If J-Dub gets it going, that's okay. I'm curious to see... They didn't
shut down Shea.
Yeah, no, Game 3, they did a pretty good job on Shea. I'm curious to see what the Pacers defense is going to look like. I think a lot of this is going to come down to, is Oklahoma ready for this with limited experience on most of the players? This is Chet's second year. This is J-Dub's third year, fourth year. Shea is kind of the only guy who's been around long enough to have some of these big games, and he's never been in a position like this before. Where you look at the other team, you've got proven winners like Thomas Bryant, Pascal Siakam.
I don't know about proven winners.
Hey. He was there when LeBron broke the scoring record. He should have passed it, Bryant.
That's true.
But I think there is a possibility that the Thunder come out here and kind of look like a young, inexperienced team for a little bit. But one thing they have shown is that they're very quick to adapt. They're very ready to rise to the moment. That's a big reason why they won that Denver series, I think. So maybe I'm disrespecting them a little bit, but when I look at both teams, I kind of see Indiana's experience trumping Oklahoma's a little bit, and maybe that doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's I kind of see the same thing. I mean, you have Alex Caruso, who's won a championship before. Isaiah Hartenstein has been in big playoff moments, but besides that, it's. Hartenstein actually might be about the same as the rest of the team, actually, now that I think about it.
Yeah,
but
the Knicks never really
besides
made it
that far. It's not much where, obviously Halliburton has been one of the most clutch players in the game this playoffs. So, and obviously Siakam's won a championship as the guy or the second guy. So we've seen a lot of experience in that way. It's going to be very interesting. I think it's going to be similar to the Denver series, which I guess OKC kind of proved us wrong here, but where if it came down to the end, I'm almost favoring the Pacers just because of what we've seen from them in these clutch situations against Cleveland, against New York, and against Milwaukee.
Yeah.
And even throughout the season, where we have seen that actually a lot more from OKC, where they did beat the Wolves, they kept them at bay, they beat the Nuggets, they kept them at bay. So it's a little bit more now, I'm a little bit more comfortable picking the Thunder in those situations now than I was a couple months ago when they were going into the series against Denver. But Indiana, they just have some weird magic to them that you can't quite explain, and it's different than these last couple magical runs by a team like Miami or Dallas, where it's they would actually do something here.
I definitely agree about the Thunder kind of rising to the occasion and showing that they are ready for these games, but I do think I don't think that Denver series should have gone 7, really, realistically. They kind of choked away a couple games where it was and that almost decided the series. And I don't think you really have against the Nuggets. It's Aaron Gordon got hurt, Michael Porter Jr. was hurt the whole series, Jamal Murray was playing pretty bad for a lot of these games. Where in the Indiana side, they're all kind of on a heater. All the role players have been seeing the ball go down all playoffs. That makes a big difference. And they're just way deeper. They can match OKC's depth. Where I felt like that was supposed to be something that Minnesota was able to do, but Dante DiVincenzo never really showed up that much. Jada McDaniels,
except that he showed up in Game 3 and 4.
He did, yeah.
Wow, which are at home. Do role players play better at home or something?
It's almost like someone's been saying that. I think this is going to be a pretty fun series. it's one of those things where I wouldn't be that surprised if Oklahoma just kind of runs them out at the gym and figures something out, because I do think Indiana they're less adaptable. They don't have as many different ways they can play. But I do think they're one of the few teams in the playoffs that are able to match OKC's depth.
Yeah, just a good team and a tough out for anybody that they play, just the way they play. Do you have final predictions?
I do. So my brain tells me I got to go with OKC, but my heart is always with ex-Wizards players. So I got to go with the team that has 2 former Wizards players. We got Thomas Bryant, and we got what was that guy's name? Yes, Jackson, who was like barely on the Wizards, but it counts.
He played a couple years.
I want to keep this streak going 8 years in a row, which, 8 new champions. All of those champions have had ex-Wizards on the team. So there is a correlation there. The Wizards development farm is going crazy. But in all seriousness,
2027.
In all seriousness, I would love to get Pacers in 7. So I'm going to predict that, hoping that I can manifest that into reality.
Nice, Pacers in 7.
Yeah.
I'm going to go on the other side. I think OKC, they've been the best team all year. I don't really want to overthink it. I do think the Pacers will take a game in OKC, maybe even game 1, and kind of like be like, oh, wait, what are we doing? But I think at the end of the day, the Thunder will bounce back. We'll have games where it feels like the Pacers are behind by like 6 to 8 the whole game, and they can never really cut into that lead. And I think that's the type of games that champions really have. We saw that with the Nuggets. We saw that with the Lakers. We saw that with the Bucks. Like all these former champions, right? So I'm gonna go Thunder in 6. I do believe they'll close it out in Indiana.
I just hope the Thunder don't win, because we are going to get the most shameless aura farming you've ever seen from Shea and J-Dub. It's going to be so annoying. It's going to be the corniest shit ever. All these people that are like,
Sonics,
Jason Tatum's corny. It's like, this entire Thunder team is fucking corny. They're just sniffing Gatorade and being like, oh, well, to get a rebound, you grab the ball and take it. I know, man. Come on.
J-Dub is, what's that guy from VeggieTales? Larry from VeggieTales.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, just look at his face. You'll see it.
Is he the tomato or is he the cucumber?
I don't
broccoli?
Remember. My friend said it. I don't. It's definitely not the broccoli.
I don't remember VeggieTales at all.
I was gonna say something about Thomas Bryant, but I can't remember. Oh, good that he got a shout out from the Finals MVP Pascal Siakam. Also hilarious that Halliburton looked like he was about to he stepped up looking like he was gonna get it, and then it went
that
to
video
instead.
Is so funny. He's doing the peace signs. He's like, yeah, and he starts walking, and then they go, Pascal Siakam, and he's like, oh shit. And you can kind of see it on his face. It seems like he's like, I'm on camera. And of course, I don't think it's a 4K. Yeah, I don't think it's a big deal. Like, people last year were like, look at Jason Tatum. He's so mad he didn't get Eastern Conference Finals MVP. And it's like, I don't think the players are thinking like that. I think they're just happy
I don't
with the
think
finals.
They're happy for their teammates. To get that far, you have to be
Yep.
pretty locked in with all your teammates with no issues. So,
and also, I would like to formally make an apology to Halliburton for doubting him these years. He's really proved me wrong. Where last year I felt like he was really good, but he wasn't super necessary for that run. This year I feel like he's 100% necessary. He has been doing an amazing job. I think being called overrated by the consensus amount of the consensus NBA players currently,
which I kind of
lit a fire under his ass. Yeah, I mean, it was 30% of them, 33% said Halliburton was overrated.
Yeah,
so I always love to see a revenge tour proving people wrong. And as a Wizards fan, you always got to root for the little guy. I love seeing underdogs win.
And Thomas Bryant, I'm always going to root for Thomas Bryant too.
Thomas Bryant, class act, did amazingly here. Always wanted to be here. Always gave 110%. Just unfortunately went through a pretty major injury during a year where we really needed center production, so had to cut him out. But he's had a great career past that. He's shaping up to be a long-term NBA role player, which from the Wizards' development at that time is about as much as you can ask.
Yeah. But,
we pumped out a good amount of those. Denny, Bryant.
Yeah, most of them. Bryant.
Rui's been really key for the Lakers.
A lot of good role players, I guess.
Yeah.
Johnny Davis, obviously.
Good role player in China.
Yeah.
The Shanghai Sharks.
We'll go through our last drafts after the draft. Probably we'll also go. We'll look at our mock draft from last year and have a new mock draft for this year. We got some spicy picks, I think.
Yes, we do.
In the chamber for this year.
Yeah, we're going to be gearing up a lot for the draft this year. Last year was like, it was fun, but it was like, we have two. It's going to be SAR. And then we had, 16, 18 again? And I was just
something like that. I think I
didn't really
predicted
know.
Keyshawn George in the last one, but we'll look at it.
Yeah, we'll look at it. And this year, it's a lot more volatile. We have 6. We can, just off the top of my head, people that have been mocked to the Wizards, we have Fierce, we have Johnson, we have even Ace Bailey, we have VJ Edgecombe, we have Queen, we have Malawak, we have Noah Sengu, we have who's the other one?
I've seen a few Con Knipple, but not too many.
Yeah, Con Knipple. So this year, nobody really knows what's going on. Nobody even knows who's getting picked third.
The Sixers have been throwing out a lot of smoke screens in that, so it'll be interesting.
Yeah. So I'm really excited to see what happens. I think it's going to be a really entertaining draft for us, and we will be coming at you guys with a live reaction just like we did for the lottery. So we'll probably be doing the top 5 picks, the 6th pick, and then probably skipping to the 18th pick because I'm going to be honest, I don't give a shit about who gets picked 7 to 17. And then we probably won't do anything for the... I don't
maybe it was
a second round
picks.
Maybe
I don't even know if they have any second round picks. Now that I'm thinking about it.
No, I don't know
because they traded a ton. So
I think these might be our only 2 picks. But maybe we got one in a trade for someone. Either way, I don't really care. I would watch it if it was if it was right after. It's true. He does look good. But doing it, I'm not a fan of doing it the day after or like a next day to do the second round.
It seems like weird timing with the NIL stuff because like second round, I don't know. It's like a weird situation where we have a lot of fringe first round guys who are going back to college, so the second round just is going to be weaker or more full of seniors and people who are graduating. So it'll be interesting to see how the NIL stuff shapes the draft and how it all plays out in the future.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll talk about this later, but I'm actually a fan of incentivizing players to stay in college longer. Because I do think
get that education.
Get the education, number one, for sure. I'm always a big proponent of get that degree just in case something doesn't work out and you have areas to move into afterwards. And, I think education is key for anybody. I think the more educated you are, the smarter you get, the less susceptible you are to misinformation, targeted propaganda, all this kind of stuff that's very relevant nowadays. So I always advocate for athletes to educate themselves. Like a lot of NBA players seem to, they do take that opportunity a lot of the time. I also think, make more money, get more experience, and then when you come into the NBA, you're a little more prepared. You can contribute to teams better, and at the same time, these teams are getting role players who kind of already know what's going on instead of like, I'm going to try to commit in my second year because I had a really good year, but it's really hard for me to transfer this over to the NBA.
Which we do see a lot.
We do see a lot of that. And I do think the league has been trending young for a long time, so I think it's nice to incentivize, going a little older, where I think a lot of these vets are getting... I think this is a very big problem in the WNBA, but a lot of vets are getting cut out. Like Lonnie Walker probably could still play in an NBA team, but there's just too many promising young guys where it's like, this 21-year-old might be way better than Lonnie Walker could be. And I do think that's changing. Like we saw the Rockets... We have a lot of success bringing in some older guys, and the Wizards are doing that as well. But I always like to incentivize vets sticking around. I think they're very important.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. Especially even just as pseudo coaching roles, like you see Tristan Thompson, Anthony Gill, those guys.
Yep.
So,
before we wrap up, just real quick, I want to give a shout out to the Washington Mystics. They have been having, in my eyes, a very good season so far. Kiki Irialfin is a notable standout, 4th pick this year, doing incredible things. She just had almost 20 and 10 last night. We did lose. But
they lost to the Fever, right?
Yeah, they lost to the Fever without Caitlin Clark, which is a little rough. But her and Sonia Citron, I think her name is pronounced, have both been doing very well. Very impressed with them. Future's looking bright in Washington.
And I want to point out they're doing this. Aaliyah Edwards hasn't even played this season yet because she's been out with injury. So
yeah, doing it all without her. And
who is on top?
Brittany Sykes is what, like 30, 31? She's looking very good as well.
I need to lock into the WNBA more now, but it's kind of going to happen after the finals is over.
Yeah. Don't they have like a 3-4 month season? It's so short.
It is really short. But what can you do? All right, guys. We'll see you later with the either the mock draft or the 2024 drafts. We'll go over that, see how the rookies did, where we mocked them, where they actually went, if we were right on people, stuff like that.
Yep, we got some fun ideas brewing for this summer.
Yeah. Gaffer, take us out.
Yo, what's up? It's your boy DG. I'm gonna keep it short and sweet. Nothing major. We hitting the wizard bed tonight, baby. Let's get it, Gafford out.